Hey everyone, it's 8 o'clock. How are you all? I am trying to maneuver and make sure that I have Facebook on my desktop too, so I apologize. But I hope you all are doing well. Welcome to Tuesday. We're gonna get into some exercises. Make sure you have a pen and paper, and we'll just see who's coming in. And I did want to talk through some things because of the fact that we have so many new faces in the group, which is exciting. Hi, Lindy. How are you? And I wanted to, so today we're going to be doing an exercise that I think should be really fun, especially for those of you who feel like you have too much on your plate. Pretty much all of us, I think. And so we're going to, so make sure you have a pen and make sure you have some paper. This should be fun. This is something, an exercise, not the one that I do in my program, but an exercise that I found to be really helpful. And it's really based on, hi Latoya, it's really based on, hi Yashika. It's based on the idea that a lot of times we are doing too much because we haven't kind of identified what do we want to do, what are the things, and also trying to identify what are the things that actually lead to our productivity and our wins. So that's what we're going to do today. First and foremost, some things I want to talk about. So every Tuesday, I've been getting DMs from different people. So we're going to actually do this every Tuesday, which I think will be fun because people have been getting support here or there, but feeling like we have a concerted time where we can continue to do activities that will help us grow. Awesome. And definitely DM me if there's like a burning need for something that you're like, I wish I knew how to do this, or I wish this would help. Now, I don't have enough time to kind of go into it the way I would with people who are in my program, but we can definitely hit on some points that I think will be valuable for you. Other thing as well is that definitely start to put questions in. Sorry, the head wrap thing. Start to put questions in the group if you are like struggling with something. If it's like starting a new business, if it's like I need help with, I have a child with special health needs, or start to put that in with a hashtag so that there are so many women in the group that potentially somebody in the group has something that might be able to help, a resource. And that's the point of being in this kind of group. Number 3, if you're new to the group, you're going to probably get a DM from me. Usually, if we're not friends already, there's like 2 inboxes, so just check and make sure. But I will friend you. I will try to friend you. If I haven't friended you, let me know. And I just do a welcome. And then definitely the last thing I wanted to make sure of is that if you're in the group and you haven't taken the Empowered assessment, take it. It's really cool. Hi, Bettina. It's really cool. It really starts to put down on paper some of the things that a lot of us need to think about in terms of practices that will help us get to our next level. And it'll help you kind of gauge like where I'm at and kind of where I might need to focus and hone in on. So hopefully that should be helpful for you. So let's get into it because I only have 30 minutes and I need to go sleep after this. It's been a long day. So first things first, when talking about doing things that, talking about you have so much to do, a lot of times much of this is usually due to the fact that we aren't clear on what we're making, what we need, and what we really want in our lives. And the best thing that helps around that is really thinking about what are your values and really being able to be very clear on what those things are. One of the best, so sometimes people will say, what are your values? And it's hard to actually tap into that. Hi, Barbara Joy. And it's hard to tap into that. So I usually like the way of backing into it. So what I mean by that is how to identify what my values are. So what are the things that people do that really piss you off? And then you go backwards. So if it's like when somebody lies to you, you're just like, that hurts. So that means that honesty is a true value for you. Does this make sense? So a lot of times people won't kind of go into it and say that this is a value for me. But if you think about what you're backing into, that somebody does that really irks you, that will let you know of the things that are your values. Now, why am I bringing that up? Because our values will help us to identify the things that really invigorate us, the things that are really important to us, and also they help us to think about that when we do activities, if the activities are aligned with our values, we're more likely to not be drained by them. When they're not aligned with our values, we're more likely to be drained, to be exhausted, to be tired. And what I usually say is that if something's not uplifting you, then you need to either automate it, delegate it, or eliminate it. So that's what we're going to talk about, how we're going to do that, okay? So the first thing that I want you to do, make sure you have a pen and paper. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to draw a line down the middle of the piece of paper. And this is an exercise. Kate Northrup is the one who I read who has been doing this. Hi, Shindana. And so what I want you to think about is think about your values. Think about some area that is either stressing you out, an area of your life. So it could be relationship, it could be parenting, it could be work, something where you're doing a lot and you feel like you need to pare down, but you're not able to. So think about something like that you want to have better results and less stress, okay? So whatever that is, pop in the chat if what area or what thing that you really want to focus on for the exercise, so I get an idea of where you guys are at. Did I say hi to everyone? I think so. Okay, so on the left-hand side, I would like you to write down the tasks or activities that you do in that area of your work or life. So let's say for me, I think the biggest thing that I am really interested in right now is around my self-care and really just trying to have better results in that, okay? So list the tasks or activities that you do in that area. So right now, I might exercise once in a while. I might eat healthy. I might sleep. I might do yoga, whatever that is. So write that down in the area. So if it's one of somebody's leadership or something like that at work, then you might want to write down speaking opportunities or writing new articles. Or if it's a business, you want to write down the marketing and writing my emails and all that stuff. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the chat if that makes sense. Please don't be silent, because I feed off of you guys, and it's 8 o'clock. So then the one thing that I want you to do now is on the right-hand side, in that same area, what you're going to do is you're going to write down the wins that you've had in that area. So, for example, remember on the left-hand side, you're writing down, hi, Michelle. Yay. On the left-hand side, you're writing down the activities that you usually do in that area, okay? Anything that you usually do in that area. And then on the right-hand side, you're going to write down the wins that you've had. Maybe you booked a speaking engagement. Maybe something, if it's leadership, if we go with that, maybe it's that you were able to, I don't know, be on a podcast or whatever it is, or maybe you were able to present something. Just put that down, okay? Let me know if you feel like you put that down. I would say that you probably want to have at least 5 to 10 wins, okay? And it's okay. We are attuned to not identifying our wins, okay? So if you're I have no wins in that area, you do, okay? You just have to kind of go forth with it, because a lot of times we are more interested in preventing failure than actually focusing on pursuing success. So if you think about something that you want to do, a lot of times there's hesitation. Hi, Olapeju. A lot of times there is difficulty for us to foresee kind of what success will look like. More so, we'll see the deficits, and then we'll think about, okay, let me not do this, or let me do this, and this, and this, so that I don't fail, instead of let me do this, and this, and this, so that I succeed. Okay. Hi, Joya. How are you? Hi, NECA. So just to recap for the newbies, what we're doing is we're trying to think about how do we do more by doing less. And so we're going to take an area of our life that is extremely filled to the brim with craziness, and we're going to start to pare that down. And so what we are doing on our left-hand side, we're writing a line on a piece of paper, vertical line all the way down. On the left-hand side, we're writing all of the tasks that are in that area of our life. So we might be talking about a certain work area or a certain parenting area or something like that. And on the right-hand side, you're going to write down all of the wins. Okay? So now what do? We got wins and we have activities. So then what you're going to do actually is you're going to draw a line that connects each of your biggest wins to the activity or task that was most responsible for it. I will say that again. Okay? If you think about, let's say, if you had a paper that was accepted for publication for all of you academics, the task that might be a part of your daily work might be reading and researching, right? So that was something that probably was related to that paper being published, or your writing, whatever that is, okay? And I want you to basically start doing that, start connecting tasks on the left-hand side to the wins that you see on the right-hand side. What you're doing there is we're starting to think backwards, because a lot of times we're very clear about taking time to reflect on disasters that happen in our lives, but we're not as clear at taking time to think about positive things and basically saying, how did that positive thing happen, and how can I actually, I would say, kind of like dissect that, right? So that I can say, how could I replicate that kind of success at another moment or in another area of my life. So we hardly ever do that. We don't do a post-mortem per se. And so that's what this is kind of lifting on or leveraging to be able to do that. So I want you to let me know in the chat if this is making sense, or let me know in the chat if this is not making sense at all and I can go slower. I just realized you guys are moms, a lot of you. So I try to pack in a lot because I know you got things to do, but I want to make sure that you get some value. Okay? So basically what you're going to have is you're going to have a list of activities and tasks that are circled, and the ones that are circled are the ones that are connected to some kind of win on the right-hand side. Okay? Then what you're going to do is you're also going to have a bunch of tasks that you do that are not circled, okay? Meaning these are tasks that were not related to any win that you had, at least in the recent past. And so when it's not circled, that means that it goes on the ADE list, okay? So what's the ADE list? That is the automate, delegate, or eliminate list, okay? So whenever we're thinking about the what we need to do, many of you have talked in the group entry questions about having difficulty asking for help, having difficulty getting support, and a lot of that is due to the fact that you have not connected what you're doing to potentially what you're making space for, okay? List of activities and tasks, exactly, Neka. Thank you for the summary. So what the problem is that we become more likely to ask for help when we know what we're making space for. So for me, I am more likely to ask my husband for help when I know that I want to make space for completing this email sequence for my business, right? So I'm more likely, when we don't have clarity on what is the thing that we're making space for, then it's hard for us to make boundaries, and those boundaries usually collapse, okay? So one of the things that I want you to think about right now is, as you look at your list of activities that aren't circled, so activities that are not directly related to a win, I want you to think about what is stopping you from, what do you want to do with that thing? Do you want to automate it? Okay, so automating it is kind of thinking about, and let me tell you, for automating and delegating, basically the best way you can identify if something could be automated or delegated is if you can actually list off the things that need to happen in order for that task to get done. So if you can list that clearly and say, well, in order to do this, and this needs to happen, that means that you can explain to somebody else that it needs to happen, and you can tell them to do it. The things that become difficult are like publish a book, or big things that basically can't be delegated. But if you have something that you can clearly list how it can be done, then give it to somebody. The other way that you also want to think about taking those things off of your plate is starting to see where they land. So NECA, because you're in the Empowered program, we one of the books that we get through is called The Big Leap, and he talks about our 4 zones. And so I'm just going to review that because that's going to be helpful as well. So you have your zone of competence. You have your zone of incompetence, okay? And everyone probably should know what that is. Incompetence, I don't do this, I can't do this, I don't know how to do this, I'm always flubbing up. The zone of competence, I could do it, but I don't do it well. There's so many more people who do it better than me. Your zone of excellence, this is where we get in trouble, because our zone of excellence are the things that we have studied all of our lives to do, and we're good at, right? NECA says The Big Leap is a game changer. Yeah, we're in we just finished week 3 training in the group, in our program, and NECA you said you were in your feelings, right? Reading that book. So the zone of excellence are things like seeing patients sometimes for us, researching or writing papers. Those are zone of excellence things. Now, the question is, are those things also in our zone of genius or not? So the zone of genius are things that ultimately are our natural abilities or our natural gifts. So when we think about it, it's thinking about what could we just do that just time seems to pass and we can do it forever. What are the things that everyone seems to come to us for that doesn't drain us but just invigorates us, For me, it's all the people, I mentioned this yesterday, people always come to me to ask for advice or tell me what their problems are. I don't know why that is. I don't know if that is something that is on my face that, hey, if I have a problem, go to Omalara. But that's what I found. And also I find that I really enjoy kind of helping people think through solutions. So that's in an area of zone of genius that you enjoy it. People come to you. People are always like, oh, you have that's a great idea. How did you do that? So those are the clues. And so what you want to do with those activities that we talked about, the ones that are not circled and not related to a win, is you want to actually figure out if you can automate, delegate, eliminate any of the things that fall into the zone of incompetence, zone of competence, or even your zone of excellence. The place that you're going to get invigorated by are activities that are in your zone of genius. And those are things that you can keep, as well as the things that are directly related to a win. So let me know, if you're doing this exercise, let me know in the chat things that are falling off, that have not been circled and have not been directly related to a win, nor are in your zone of genius. So let me know in the chat some of the things that are coming up for people. Okay? Now, while you're doing that in the chat, I know many of you are going to be like, well, doing the laundry is not in my zone of genius, but I have to do it. Washing the dishes is not in my zone of genius, but I have to do it, right? You're going to talk about that. So the question for us is not underestimating the resources that we have available to us, right? And I think the problem is that we equate those things with things that we must do, and not things that could be done by others, perhaps not as well as we could do them, of course, because we're perfect, right? But the things that actually can be outsourced, right, to somebody, or the things that basically might be helpful that you can give to an assistant that they can do, like if it's scheduling meetings, maybe starting to think about who can schedule those meetings for me so I'm not busy making those changes. Hi, Bola. The other thing that you want to think of is not, maybe you don't have to go all the way with it, right? So instead of saying I'm going to attend the PTA, serving on the PTA, right, all this whole year, I'll go to a few meetings. It's not in my zone of genius, but it's something that I feel like I need to do. Then start to think about, I don't have to be the guru, and I don't have to be in the extreme. I can actually do do a little piece of that instead of trying to go all the way. And I think that's where we fall into trouble, where it's kind of, if something needs to get done, I have to do it absolutely perfectly, big, awesome, and it's not really necessary, because I think that many times, if we're not realizing that that is taking up so much of our time, because either it's not in our zone of genius, so we're not efficient at it, it's not in our zone of it's in our zone of excellence, competence, or incompetence, we are realizing that it's taking our time. And what could that time potentially be used for? That is something that we enjoy, something that's going to move us to our next level, or something that's going to result in a win. Okay? So first and foremost, I want to just recap really quickly. Okay? And also think about the fact that you can do this in any area of your life. So we started with one. You could do it in self-care work. You could do it in parenting. You could do it with your relationship. Whatever that is. But just to recap, basically the first thing you always want to do is you want to think about, what are my values? Values will help you start to identify where are the priority areas in your life, and also where are the areas that things you value but you're spending less time on. Those are areas that you might now want to say, that's a focus for me, because I know that I want to get more time in that area, and I want to figure out how to make space for that. So that's one thing I want you to hold and make sure you have a pin whenever you're doing this exercise. The second thing is, you want to think about an area just in general that is taxing, that is overwhelming you. It may be home parenting work. It may be chores. And so once you have those activities down, you want to now make sure on the other side that you have the wins in that area of life, and you want to be able to connect activities, to wins. If you're seeing that there are a whole bunch of activities not connected to wins, then remember, you need to do one of three things for it. You need to automate it, where it's something that either happens like clockwork, and basically is something that you don't have to do, right, to make it move. Something that you're delegating, or something that you're saying, you know what, is this really important, right, for me? And eliminate it, okay? Doesn't mean it's gone forever, probably, hopefully, but you can always say, maybe that's going to be a quarter, the next quarter, or maybe that's going to be a next year thing, okay? Everything does not have to happen, because when we're trying to do all of the things, a lot of times we end up doing all of them really poorly. And then we end up feeling bad about ourselves. So really the idea is for us to kind of think about, how can I be most productive? What am I making space for? And making sure that that's the motivation for you saying, I'm going to pare down, if that makes sense. Let me know in the chat if this is making sense, if there's any value to this, if this is helpful, if you're like, I have no idea what this lady's talking about. Let me know. I accept all of those things. And then the thing that I want you to make sure of is thinking about, when you think about those activities, where do they sit? Are any of those in their zone of genius? Hi, Suzette. Any of those things in your zone of excellence, zone of competence, zone of incompetence? And think about how much time you're spending on activities that are in those other three zones. When you are, they're usually outside of your zone of excellence. They're usually draining you. And that's when it should be you should value yourself enough to say, hey, I need to give this over to somebody. And also to be able to be gracious with yourself to say, if this laundry is not folded the correct way, that is okay. That is okay. Thank you, husband, for doing that. And that's one thing off of my plate. So now I can actually move this forward. And a lot of times we're the rate limiting step to our vision. So it is, I don't even know what time it is. It's 8:25, okay? So pop in some questions if you have any. I try to keep these short, but I'm going to do one next Tuesday. If you have comments about something that you want us to focus on for next week, Let the church say amen, amen, and amen, and hallelujah. Let me know, okay? Otherwise, I am really excited. And definitely for all of you, I talked about the empowered assessment. It's a really helpful thing. Ola just says, I thought I would have listed more wins. It's hard. Okay, I mentioned this before. You may have gotten off. If you're having difficulty thinking about your wins, that's actually like biologically normal. Why biologically? For our race, our human race, right, to survive, it wasn't focused on what we did well. It was focused on making sure that we could anticipate what would be all of the negative things that could happen to us, right? Thank you, Shanda. Thank you. And so if you think about it, it wasn't like, oh, look, I was able to get this food. It was like, how do I stop from getting eaten by a tiger? Right? And so a lot of times we don't focus on wins. We focus on all of the bad things that can happen. And that's just a protective measure for us. And so to focus on the wins, we actually have to be really deliberate and like take that reflection time to do that, to make sure that we're getting that information. Okay? It's actually interesting because, hi Boomy, because yesterday in our group, I had to actually ask all of the women in the group, our physicians, to write down and tell me what was going to be their reflection time for the week, that hour that they were going to sacrifice for reflection. Specifically, that would not focus on anything else except them and doing the workbooks, that workbook exercises that we had for the week. So you might need to take like 20 minutes or so. It might take a while for you to think about the wins, but it's really important for you to now start equating wins and looking at those successes and then backtracking into what the activities are that are related to that. So now you can look at what activities are not related to wins, and you can start to tier and triage and say, now these are activities that are on the chopping block in some way, either going to completely leave or are going to be delegated out, okay? And asking for help is a lot easier when you know what you're making space for, okay? Hi, Tamika. So other questions, concerns, thoughts, complaints, anything like that? Jackie. Let me know. And if you're coming on now, we are coming off. But also wanted to give the plug in for Empowered Assessment. Definitely. That's available if you look at the welcome post. Number 2, if you have questions about anything, whether it be business or whether it be real estate, whatever it is, like we have a wealth of women in here who are doing amazing things. So just put the question in and get some answers. And third, Empowered, the program. So as you know, I have our May cohort. Our next cohort is starting in July 6th. If you want to learn more, discovery call, DM me, I'll send you the link, or it should be in the welcome post. Not the video, but there's a welcome post in the announcement, so you can check that out. Outside of that, really have a good night, everyone, and I'm really happy, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Oh, one last thing, Spotlight series. If you have a business, if you have like an event or something, and you think it's going to be helpful for Black women physicians, for this audience, let me know and we can book you for a Saturday morning for a Spotlight series. Spotlight series is where we take women physicians who are doing amazing things, and we actually, thank you, Jackie. Yeah, I love the love. I'm taking it. So we basically, this week we have Dr. Leisha on, who is going to be talking about our mental health, because this is May, right? And we need to get our mental health right. And she's a parenting, so she's adult and child psych. So she's going to be on. We have a bunch of people actually scheduled back to back for Saturday. So that's going to be fly. So make sure on Saturday mornings, you don't have to look pretty. Just make sure that you turn on your phone and come over to the group. My goal is to really make this the place that you want to hang out. And definitely if you need more support, if you're like, I'm unfulfilled, I'm frustrated, I'm feeling stuck, confused, that's my specialty. That's what I love to work with. So really take care of yourselves and enjoy the group. Take advantage of it. Creating this safe space is like a passion project for me. So please, and also give me ideas on what else would be helpful for you guys. All right. Bye bye. Take care.